But let's go straight into the one video that I wanted to show you from the weekend, and this came out of the Titans-Warriors game on Saturday, and I wanted to talk a bit about dangerous tackles. Now, we know that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck was involved in a tackle on Jayden Campbell. It was a lifting tackle, and there was quite a diverse range of opinions about whether this was an incident that warranted further action on the field. Roger was sent to the sin bin, for those who haven't seen it. There was opinion that it wasn't serious enough for a sin bin, and there was a wide range of views about what action should have been taken. And to be brutally honest, when I saw the game, watching the broadcast live myself, I thought it was probably a harsh call. But one of the reasons we do these reviews in the cool light of day on a Monday after a weekend's round of matches is that we get the chance to look at these more forensically and have a look at whether the action taken by the match officials right in the heat of the moment was the right action or not. Now, we're going to have a look at this. I'll run the audio with the video, so you'll be able to hear the deliberations of the bunker, which you can't normally hear in broadcast, and it makes it pretty clear that the bunker took into consideration a number of factors here, and then we can talk about it after I play it. So I'll play it now.
That's very defensive. Oh.
Got that on camera 5.
Yep, so we're 1-on-1.
Yeah,
He goes down to the ground with him.
Show you again.
For me, this is moderate force and moderate risk of injury. It's all 1-on-1. There are no mitigating
camera 9.
circumstances.
He lands on his back.
He initially lands on his back, but then his head hits the ground, and the fact that he goes all the way to the ground with him
He's 8
is
as well.
what elevates it for me.
Okay.
G, you're going to sim bin Roger and put him on report, mate. Dangerous tackle.
So you can hear there that there was the factors that were taken into consideration was that it was 1-on-1, that Roger went to ground with Jayden, and there was moderate level of force involved and a moderate risk of injury, and importantly that the head hit the ground. Now, I mean, obviously we didn't want that to happen, or we don't want that to happen, and I'm sure Roger didn't want that to happen, so no one is suggesting that Roger has done anything here other than have a tackle go wrong, but it just demonstrates how quickly these sort of tackles can go wrong, and you know, we all know that there's no intention in any of these tackles to hurt anybody. But if I just want to point out a couple of factors here. Now, if we look at these slowly, you can see, sorry, if I go back a bit further, you can see here as we go through when the camera angle changes. So you can see Roger's lifting here. He's got his left arm under Campbell's leg. And you can see at this point, before Campbell's left foot comes off the ground, that Roger's got his knee literally under his armpit. So there's a fair degree of lift in this. Now both feet come off the ground, or both of Campbell's feet come off the ground. And Roger then comes to ground with him. You can see how his feet are pointing towards the sky at this point. And you'll see from this angle, and you'll see it again from other angles, you can see that the ball and the arm carrying the ball hits the ground first, which thankfully helps break his fall. But then you'll notice his head, there's a degree of whiplash in this, and his head goes back and hits the ground. So if we look at again, this angle's a little bit closer, but again you see the head go back and hit the ground. So I think on the basis of, and this is the other angle of course, again you can see arm hits the ground, followed by the head. So whilst, you know, fortunately there was no serious injury in this, these are the sorts of tackles that we are trying to discourage. I mean, we don't want players lifted, and this is the reason that we don't want them lifted, because it can go wrong so incredibly quickly, beyond the control of the tackler, and particularly when it's 1-on-1. So I think that on reflection and having viewed this video from all the available angles, listened to the bunker audio, I think it's a perfectly reasonable conclusion that Casey Badger came to in having Roger sent to the sin bin and placed on report for this tackle based on the level of danger involved. Again, bearing in mind that Roger didn't expect it to go bad, but it does.
Just on that, Graham, obviously that phrase risk of injury, is that probably the key in that, as opposed to obviously Jayden wasn't severely injured? Is that phrase, what you mentioned, that risk of injury, though, the key?
Yeah, there's a couple of factors that are taken into consideration. One is the level of force involved, and that's in all sorts of tackles, not only in lifting tackles, but in high tackles, all sorts of different offences. So there is the level of force, and then there is the risk of injury. So you heard Casey say there's a moderate level of force and moderate risk of injury. Of course, in some cases it might be a low level of force and a low risk of injury, which would have a lessening impact on the outcome, and you might have a kind of a more severe risk of injury, which obviously takes it the other way. But they are the factors that they look at. So while some people would look at that initially, and again I put myself in this category when I looked at this live during play, I thought, gee, there's not much wrong with that tackle. But when you break it down and look at it slowly and what could have potentially happened in that tackle, had things gone even slightly more awry, we could have had a serious outcome, and that's why we take action on these tackles, because we don't want players lifted.